Imagine a 75-year-old woman quietly walking out of a mall and suddenly security grabs her, accuses her of stealing, and hands her over to the police. But when this case reaches Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, what the judge uncovers shocks everyone. Was she really a thief, or was she the victim of something far darker? Trust me, you want to believe the twist in this story. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. It was a calm, breezy afternoon in Providence, Rhode Island. The kind of day when elderly shoppers filled the mall with slow footsteps and soft conversations. 75-year-old Eleanor Brooks moved gently through the main exit, her left hand gripping her wooden cane and her right hand carefully holding a small grocery bag. Inside were only a few essentials: bread, oatmeal, milk, and her favorite chamomile tea. Her silver hair fell loosely over her shoulders, and her tired but warm eyes carried the quiet dignity of someone who had lived an honest life. Just as she stepped onto the polished white tiles leading to the parking lot, two mall security officers, Officer Nolan and Officer Briggs, suddenly blocked her path. Their boots squeaked sharply on the floor as they came forward. "Ma'am, we need you to stop right there," Nolan said, his voice too loud for the situation. Eleanor blinked in confusion. "Is something wrong?" "Yes," Briggs snapped. "You stole items from the grocery store. We have reason to believe you hid things in your bag." "Stole?" Eleanor whispered, shocked. No, I paid for everything. I have the receipts right here." She trembled as she opened her purse with shaky fingers, trying to show them. But Nolan waved the receipt away without even looking. "Ma'am, we're not here to debate. Come with us." "I did nothing wrong." Eleanor tried again, her voice cracking. "Why wouldn't you at least look at my receipt?" Crowds started gathering, people whispering, some lifting phones but not stepping in. Eleanor's breathing grew uneven. Her legs wobbled. Briggs grabbed her arm roughly. "Let's go. Now." She winced. "Please, you were hurting me." Ignoring her plea, they pulled the frail woman down a hallway toward a small security room. Her cane slipped and clattered on the floor, echoing through the mall. No one moved to pick it up. Just as they dragged her around the corner, two uniformed Providence police officers entered the mall, Officer Samuel Hayes and Officer Maria Lopez. They spotted the commotion instantly and hurried over. "What has happened in here?" Officer Hayes demanded. "Shoplifting," Nolan answered quickly. "We caught her in the act." Eleanor lifted her tear-filled eyes. "Officer, please, I didn't steal anything. They wouldn't even look at my receipt." Officer Lopez knelt slightly so she could meet Eleanor at eye level. Her voice softened. "Ma'am, just take a breath. We'll sort this out." But Nolan interjected. "We already detained her. Standard procedure." "No," Officer Hayes said firmly. "You detained an elderly woman without reviewing evidence. Hand her over. We'll handle this." Within minutes, Eleanor was placed gently into the back of the police cruiser, still crying, still clutching her grocery bag, still insisting she had receipts. Officer Hayes sighed as he closed the door. "We'll let the court figure this out." And by evening, the case State of Rhode Island versus Eleanor May Brooks was officially placed on the docket for Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. The real story was only beginning. The next morning, Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom buzzed with its usual rhythm low murmurs, shuffling papers, attorneys preparing their arguments. The sunlight slipping through the tall windows cast long golden stripes across the polished wood, giving the room a dignified yet gentle atmosphere. Officer Hayes guided Eleanor Brooks inside. She looked smaller than the previous day, almost swallowed by the oversized beige coat she wore. Her hands shook as she held her purse close to her chest, and her eyes darted nervously at every sound. "Take your time," Officer Lopez whispered to her, placing a supportive hand on her back. When Judge Caprio entered, the room rose in respect. He settled into his chair with that familiar blend of authority and warmth. His eyes scanned the courtroom, then softened when they landed on the elderly woman before him. "Good morning, Mrs. Brooks," he said kindly. "Please take a seat. I want you to be comfortable." Eleanor nodded timidly, lowering herself into the chair with effort. The clerk announced, "Case number 58271, State of Rhode Island versus Eleanor May Brooks, charged with misdemeanor shoplifting." A quiet gasp ran through the gallery. Judge Caprio's brows drew together. "I see," he murmured, looking at Eleanor again. "Mrs. Brooks, how are you feeling today?" "I'm all right, Your Honor," she whispered, voice trembling. "But I didn't steal anything, I swear." "We'll get to the bottom of this," Judge Caprio said, nodding gently. Then he looked toward the prosecution table. "Who filed this complaint?" A local prosecutor stepped forward. "Your Honor, the mall security team. 2 officers claim they personally witnessed Mrs. Brooks conceal merchandise without paying." "They witnessed it?" Judge Caprio repeated with skepticism, leaning back. "Do they have footage?" The prosecutor cleared his throat. "Not exactly. Their camera system in that wing was under maintenance." The judge's eyes narrowed. "So no video?" "Correct, Your Honor. Do they have photographs? Witness reports? Anything?" "Only their written statement." At that moment, the courtroom door opened, and the 2 mall security guards, Nolan and Briggs, walked in wearing stiff uniforms and even stiffer expressions. They took their seats as if nothing unusual had happened. Judge Caprio observed them carefully. "Gentlemen, we'll speak shortly." Turning back to Eleanor, he asked softly, "Mrs. Brooks, do you have the receipt for the items you purchased?" Her hands trembled as she opened her purse. "Yes, Your Honor." She pulled out a crumpled slip and handed it to Officer Lopez, who brought it to the judge. Judge Caprio adjusted his glasses and studied the receipt for a long moment. It listed bread, oatmeal, milk, tea, all time-stamped, all paid in full. He looked up. "This receipt appears legitimate. Mrs. Brooks, did you buy anything else?" "No, sir. Just those few things. I don't have much money. I buy only what I need." There was a quiet ache in her words, one that touched the entire courtroom. Before the judge could respond, Nolan suddenly stood up. "Your Honor, she's lying. We saw her put items in her bag." Briggs nodded. "She tried to walk out without paying." Judge Caprio turned his gaze toward them, calm, steady, but piercing. "And you refused to check her receipt when she offered it?" Nolan hesitated. We were following protocol." "Protocol?" the judge echoed slowly. "Protocol that allows you to drag a 75-year-old woman down a mall hallway without verifying the truth?" A wave of discomfort rippled across the guards' faces. Then Judge Caprio asked the question that shifted the entire room. "Tell me, did you find any unpaid merchandise in her bag after detaining her?" Silence. The prosecutor looked at them. "Well, answer the court." Nolan swallowed. "No, we didn't. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Judge Caprio raised a hand, restoring order. His voice remained calm, but a storm swirled beneath it. So you accused her, publicly humiliated her, dragged her physically, and then called the police without a single piece of proof? Without even looking at the receipt she begged you to check? Eleanor wiped her eyes, her frail shoulders shaking. But before the courtroom could settle, something unexpected happened. Officer Hayes stepped forward. "Your Honor," he said, "there's more. We reviewed the Mall S hallway camera. It doesn't show Mrs. Brooks stealing anything. But it does show the guards dragging her harshly, even when she struggled to walk." Judge Caprio's face hardened. "Bring that footage to the court." The prosecutor nodded. "We can have it ready within an hour." Eleanor looked up, confused and hopeful all at once. "Your Honor, will you believe me?" Judge Caprio leaned forward, eyes gentle, voice steady. "Mrs. Brooks, we are going to uncover exactly what happened. And I promise you the truth will speak loudly in this courtroom." The air felt heavier now, tense. Something deeper than a simple accusation was unfolding, and the twist was only beginning. The courtroom's lights dimmed slightly as the projector screen lowered. A technician hurried in with a laptop, followed by Officer Hayes carrying a USB drive. The atmosphere had shifted, no longer routine, no longer ordinary. Everyone sensed that the truth was about to shake the room. Judge Caprio straightened in his chair. "Let us review the hallway footage." The technician connected the cable, and the screen flickered to life. "The video," began. A view from a mall security camera mounted high in the corridor ceiling. People walked by casually, shoppers carrying bags, children running ahead of their parents. Then Eleanor appeared. She moved slowly, her cane tapping the floor, her small grocery bag swinging lightly. There was no panic, no hesitation, just an elderly woman walking toward the exit. Next came Nolan and Briggs. They positioned themselves almost simultaneously, stepping into her path. Even on silent video, their posture looked confrontational. The courtroom watched in absolute stillness as the moment unfolded. Briggs jabbed a finger toward Eleanor's bag. She visibly flinched. Nolan pushed her arm. She reached for her receipt, but he waved it away. The guards grabbed her, yanking her backward. Gasps rippled across the courtroom as the screen showed Eleanor losing balance, her cane falling, her body jerking under the force of their grip. Judge Caprio tightened his jaw, his face stern. The video continued. The guards dragged her down the hallway. She stumbled, her legs struggling to keep up. Her grocery bag swayed violently. No one stepped in. People only stared. Then the footage ended. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Judge Caprio leaned forward. His voice dropped into a level tone filled with restrained anger. "Mr. Nolan, Mr. Briggs, do you wish to revise your earlier statements?" Nolan's face went pale. "Your Honor, we thought she was hiding something." "Thought?" the judge repeated sharply. "You escalated violence against a 75-year-old woman on a thought?" Briggs stammered. We didn't mean to hurt her." "But you did," Judge Caprio said. "And then you had her arrested for a crime she didn't commit." Eleanor's eyes watered again, but this time, not from fear this time, from relief. For the first time, she felt someone finally listening. Officer Hayes approached the witness stand. "Your Honor, if I may add, when we inspected her bag at the station, we found only the items listed on her receipt. Nothing more." The courtroom murmured again. Judge Caprio turned to the prosecutor. "Do you have any evidence whatsoever against Mrs. Brooks?" The prosecutor flipped through his folder helplessly. "Your Honor, we have the guard's initial report, but no actual proof of theft. No video, No unpaid items? No witnesses who saw her steal? No, Your Honor. Then why is this charge still standing? The judge asked, his voice rising. The prosecutor hesitated. Because the mall insisted we proceed. A sharp wave of tension shot across the room. Judge Caprio's eyes locked onto him. The mall insisted? Yes, Your Honor. They said shoplifting increased recently, and they needed to take a hard stance. And so, the judge said slowly, they decided to make an example out of a frail elderly woman without proof, based purely on assumptions. Eleanor S. lips quivered. Your Honor, I've never stolen in my life. My husband used to say integrity is what you do when no one is watching. He passed away years ago, but I've lived by that. Her voice cracked. I just wanted my tea and oatmeal, that's all. The words hit the room like a wave. Even a few spectators wiped their eyes. Judge Caprio took a long breath, then signaled for the guards to step forward. Mr. Nolan, Mr. Briggs, I am ordering a full inquiry into your conduct. This court will not tolerate abuse of authority. The guards looked down, ashamed. But before the judge could continue, the courtroom doors opened. A young woman rushed inside, breathless, eyes red from panic. She wore a nurse-s uniform. Eleanor gasped softly. Emily, she whispered. The young woman ran to her. Grandma, I came as soon as I heard. The gallery turned to watch as Emily gently embraced her grandmother. Judge Caprio softened. And you are? Emily Brooks, Your Honor. I am her granddaughter. She turned to Eleanor. Grandma, are you okay? They told me you were arrested. Arrested? Eleanor shook her head slowly. I'm all right now, dear. Emily turned to the judge. Your Honor, whatever they said, my grandmother would never steal. She barely buys anything that isn't on sale. The courtroom chuckled lightly, breaking the tension. Judge Caprio smiled gently. Ms. Brooks, the footage makes your grandmother's integrity clear. But just then, another unexpected voice rose from the gallery. Your Honor, I was there. Everyone turned. An elderly man in a baseball cap sitting near the back stood up. He continued, I was at the register behind her. I saw her pay for everything. I still have the receipt for my own purchase with the exact timestamp. Judge Caprio gestured. Come forward, sir. The man approached, pulling his own receipt from his wallet. It'll match hers, Your Honor. She didn't steal a thing. A deep hush filled the courtroom. Piece by piece, the truth was revealing itself. But the biggest twist was still waiting, hidden in someone's intentions, someone who wasn't ready to be exposed yet. The courtroom felt heavier than before. Quiet but pulsing with tension, like the air before a storm. Judge Frank Caprio took a moment before speaking, letting the weight of the testimony settle. Sunlight from the upper windows cast a soft glow on Eleanor's trembling hands, Emily holding them tightly. Sir, Judge Caprio said to the elderly man who stepped forward, please state your name. Walter Jenkins, Your Honor. He replied, removing his cap respectfully. I'm a retired mailman. Lived in Providence my whole life. Judge Caprio nodded. You said you witnessed Mrs. Brooks pay for her items? I did, Walter said confidently. She used cash, counted it slowly. The cashier even smiled at her. I remember because she reminded me of my late wife, quiet, polite, always saying thank you. A ripple of emotion passed through the courtroom. Even Eleanor looked touched, her eyes glistening. Walter continued. When I saw the guards pulling her like that, I should have stepped in. I should have said something right then. His voice cracked. Emily whispered, thank you for coming forward. Before Walter could return to his seat, the prosecutor asked carefully, "Sir, do you remember anything unusual? Anything that might have caused the guards to think she had taken extra items?" Walter frowned. Nothing. She walked out slow, careful, like she always does. Those guards just assumed she wasn't moving fast enough. Or maybe they assumed something else. He hesitated. Judge Caprio leaned forward. "Go on." Walter sighed. "Your Honor, those guards, Nolan and Briggs, they've had complaints before. My neighbor's grandson was stopped by them last month. He didn't steal anything either. They just like to feel powerful." A murmur swept the room. Judge Caprio looked toward the prosecutor. "Is this true? Have there been previous complaints?" The prosecutor swallowed. "There are incident records, Your Honor. But the mall requested they be treated as internal matters." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Internal matters that involve unlawful detainment?" The prosecutor looked down. Meanwhile, Nolan and Briggs stiffened uncomfortably at the defense table. Emily suddenly stood. "Your Honor, I actually brought something that might help." She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded document. "This is my grandmother's medical report. She has arthritis in both knees and chronic vertigo. She can't even walk fast, let alone run or hide things." Judge Caprio read the papers carefully. His expression softened even further when he reached the last page. He looked at Eleanor. "Mrs. Brooks, you've had a difficult time, haven't you?" She nodded faintly. "It's been hard since my husband died, Your Honor. I live alone. I manage by myself, but I never thought kindness would be so rare." Her voice cracked, fragile but honest. Emily squeezed her hand. "You were not alone anymore, Grandma." Just as the moment settled, the back door of the courtroom opened again, this time more quietly, almost hesitantly. A woman in her early 30s entered wearing a red blazer, her expression tense. She walked straight to the prosecutor and whispered something. He looked startled. Judge Caprio noticed immediately. "Is there something you'd like to share with the court?" The woman stepped forward. "Your Honor, my name is Melissa Crane. I am the assistant manager of the mall." The room tensed again. She took a deep breath. "I came because I can't stay silent anymore. The mall's administration pressured security to report at least 5 shoplifting cases per month, even if there was no solid proof." Gasps filled the courtroom. Eleanor covered her mouth in disbelief. Emily whispered, "Oh my God." Melissa continued, "They told us to crack down on anyone who fit a suspicious profile. People who walked slowly, looked confused, or seemed alone." Judge Caprio's voice dropped to a chilling calm. "Suspicious profile? You mean elderly people? Vulnerable people?" Melissa nodded painfully. "Yes, Your Honor." "And Mrs. Brooks was targeted because she walked slowly?" "Yes," Melissa whispered. "And because she looked like an easy person to intimidate?" Briggs dropped his head into his hands. Nolan's legs trembled. The entire courtroom stared in shock as Melissa continued. What the guards did was wrong. But the mall management encouraged this behavior. If they didn't bring in enough cases, they were threatened with reduced hours or termination. Judge Caprio removed his glasses slowly and set them on the bench. His voice carried a deep sorrow and controlled fury. "I cannot begin to comprehend the cruelty behind such a policy." He looked at Eleanor. "Mrs. Brooks, you were not just accused unfairly. You were deliberately targeted." Eleanor's eyes closed, 2 slow tears falling. Emily whispered, "Grandma, I am so sorry you had to go through this." The judge leaned forward. This court will not allow such injustice to pass unchecked. Then he turned to the guards. You two will remain here. There will be further legal consequences. Nolan and Briggs had no words left. But just when the courtroom thought the twists were over, Melissa added in a trembling voice, Your Honor, there is something even worse. Someone higher up ordered this woman to be stopped specifically. The room froze. Judge Caprio's voice sharpened. What do you mean specifically? Melissa swallowed hard. I mean, someone called the mall office and told security to stop an elderly woman with silver hair carrying a small brown grocery bag. Judge Caprio frowned deeply. Who? Melissa hesitated, her lips trembling. Your Honor, the call came from inside the mall management office, and the number belongs to She Stopped. The courtroom leaned in. My boss, the general manager. Judge Caprio's face turned stern and calm, the kind of calm before a dramatic storm. Something intentional, something hidden had been waiting beneath this simple accusation. And now, it was coming to light. The courtroom felt like it had stopped breathing. Every eye locked on Melissa Crane as her final words echoed off the wooden walls. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his expression turning grave, composed, and razor-focused. Miss Crane, he said softly, you're telling this court that the general manager of the mall personally instructed security to stop Mrs. Brooks? Without cause? Melissa nodded, voice shaking. Yes, Your Honor. He received a complaint call, or at least that's what he claimed. He said an elderly woman matching her description was acting suspicious. But when I checked our phone logs later, there was no such call. It was his number. He made it himself. A low, stunned murmur broke out across the courtroom. Emily held her grandmother's hand even tighter. Eleanor sat silently, as though the world around her was too loud, too unreal. Judge Caprio's voice cut through the noise. Bailiff, issue an immediate subpoena for the general manager. He is to appear in this courtroom today. The bailiff nodded and hurried out. Judge Caprio turned to Melissa again. Why would he target Mrs. Brooks? Melissa hesitated, closing her eyes. Because, Your Honor, he thought she looked like someone who wouldn't fight back, someone who would be too embarrassed to defend herself. He said. She paused, shame sinking into her voice. She sold. Nobody will make a fuss. Eleanor's shoulders slumped, her breath trembling. The cruelty of the statement washed over the courtroom. Judge Caprio's jaw tightened. Thank you for your honesty, Miss Crane. It could not have been easy. Minutes later, the courtroom doors opened abruptly. Two bailiffs escorted a sharply dressed man in his 40s, the mall's general manager. His confident stride faltered the moment he saw Judge Caprio's gaze. Sir, the judge said calmly, step forward. The man swallowed. Your Honor, there seems to be some misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding. Judge Caprio interrupted. Why did you order security to stop this elderly woman? The manager looked around nervously. Your Honor, shoplifting is on the rise. I was just answer the question, the judge said, voice turning firm. The manager shifted. I thought she looked suspicious. Eleanor looked up, wounded. Suspicious? Because I walk slow, because I'm old. The manager avoided her eyes. Judge Caprio continued, did Mrs. Brooks give you any reason to believe she committed a crime? No, Your Honor. And yet you singled her out. Yes. And instructed your staff to detain her aggressively? I didn't expect them to use force. That is not an answer, the judge said sharply. You targeted an elderly woman without cause, without evidence, without humanity. The courtroom held its breath. Then Judge Caprio spoke with a gravity that filled every corner of the room. This court finds the charge against Mrs. Brooks not only baseless, but malicious. This is not a shoplifting case. This is an abuse of power case. He turned to the prosecutor. I am dismissing this case in its entirety. A wave of relief washed over Eleanor. Her eyes overflowed. Emily wrapped an arm around her. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, I am recommending a full investigation into the mall's discriminatory practices and unlawful detainments. Mr. Nolan and Mr. Briggs, your conduct toward this woman was unacceptable. And you, he pointed to the general manager, will answer for your actions before the appropriate authorities. The manager looked stunned, his confidence collapsing. Judge Caprio then faced Eleanor directly. His voice softened deeply. Mrs. Brooks, on behalf of this court and this city, I want to apologize for what you endured. You deserve dignity, not humiliation, respect, not suspicion. A tear rolled down her cheek. Thank you, Your Honor, she whispered. Emily stood beside her, her voice steady but emotional. Grandma is all I have left, Your Honor. She's gentle. She bakes cookies for our neighbors every Sunday. And they treated her like a criminal. Judge Caprio smiled gently. I can assure you, Miss Brooks, your grandmother is not the criminal in this room. He paused, then added, in fact, she is the victim of a system that forgot compassion. The gallery applauded softly, respectfully, until Judge Caprio raised a hand for quiet. Mrs. Brooks, he continued, this court will ensure you receive assistance filing a civil claim. What happened to you should never happen to anyone else. Eleanor's voice finally broke. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Judge Caprio leaned slightly toward her. Mrs. Brooks, truth has a way of finding its voice even when someone tries to silence it. Emily hugged her tightly. Walter Jenkins wiped his eyes. Even Officer Hayes looked emotional. As the courtroom slowly emptied, people approached Eleanor offering support, apologies, compassion. And for the first time since the ordeal began, Eleanor Brooks felt seen, heard, protected. She stepped out of the courtroom slowly, the morning light touching her face. She wasn't just leaving with her name cleared. She was leaving with her dignity restored, and the quiet, powerful message Judge Caprio left ringing in the air. Justice is not just a verdict. Justice is how we treat the most vulnerable among us. Thank you for watching, everyone. Stories like this remind us that justice isn't just about laws. It's about humanity, compassion, and standing up for people who can fight for themselves. If this story moved you even a little, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you never miss our next upload. And tell us in the comments, what did you think of Judge Frank Caprio's decision today? Stay safe, stay kind, and we'll see you in the next story.